My sales methodology is something called vibe. And that is, we say we lead with vibe. So we need to be able, as a sales organization, to understand the vision of the people that we're working with. That's the V. So, and that essentially is what is the current state and the future state and all that. And so that allows me to develop all of the questions, all the skills that I need to understand that. And the second one is implications. What are the implications of not moving forward with a solution? So we need to understand that. So to help anyone, there's a B, there's an E, right? So if you keep on going, but that is a sales methodology. It's something that helps me be able to develop the skills, the training around the conversations that I need to have in market.
You're listening to the Sales Today podcast, and I'm your host, Fred Copestake. On this podcast, we explore how sales professionals can develop a modern approach to winning business, the application of virtual selling techniques, how to create meaningful business relationships, and much more. Why not take our free collaborative selling scorecard to see how your sales approach suits today's environment? You'll find a link in the show notes. And welcome to this episode of the Sales Today podcast, where I'm delighted to be joined by Paul Fuller. Paul is the CRO at Membrain, and I'm really pleased that you've been able to join us today. So, Paul, welcome.
My man, Fred, thanks so much for having me. I really appreciate the opportunity.
Well, I only felt right to sort of introduce you, to invite you back, having been so kind to I can't get my words out right. Invite me on your podcast.
Well, we had a good time there, man. We really did. That was a lot of fun.
I was in the hands of a competent podcast host that could get his words out. Unlike you today, sir. But it's a good job you'll be able to pick this up and save me from myself. Oh, dear. So before we get going, Membrain, could you just explain what that is? Because this is going to be pertinent to the rest of our conversation.
Yeah, absolutely. Membrain, MEM, and then it's brain like the brain in your head, .com. We are think of us as a sales enablement CRM. We are the only CRM in the world that enables you to have a sales methodology and then craft your tool around that sales methodology, everything along with process, things that develop habits in individuals, and all the enablement tools that reps need to go out and sell. And so, sales is really a passion of mine and passion to my heart. Our goal as a company is not to rule the world of CRM. Our goal as a company is to elevate the sales profession because we think that there are critical things, talent, training, and technology. They're all needed to elevate the sales profession. And we have a great network of partners like yourself and about 130 around the world that are doing that together. So Membrain's a lot of fun. It's the technology that drives, Membrain itself is the technology that drives the community, and the community is clients in over 80 countries, partners in 130 partners around the world, and just an awesome array of sales methodology and training.
Yeah, we get to put our stuff in your system. Basically.
Yes.
Yeah.
Basically.
Basically. I mean, and that's what I like. The fact that I have the value framework: validate, align, leverage, underpin, evolve. That's now integrated into that support stuff, and people that I work with, I can direct towards that. We can package it as part of the training, and they can use that to keep driving the right best practice and results.
Yep.
But we're chucking some words around here. Let's just define some of the stuff that we're taking for written that everyone gets. So I'm not sure I do sometimes, to be honest. Methodology, process. Are they the same? Are they different? What's your take on those?
Yeah, great question. And I think you're right. People chuck those words around in sales all the time. I see them as integrated but different things. So a sales methodology is something, in my head, that it's everything that it takes from needing to hold a sales conversation to all the skills that are required around having that conversation and being able to engage people in a way that helps them move forward. So for example, my sales methodology is something called vibe. And that is, and we say we lead with vibe. So what that is we need to be able, as a sales organization, to understand the vision of the people that we're working with. That's the V. So, and that essentially is what is the current state and the future state and all that. And so that allows me to develop all of the questions, all the skills that I need to understand that. And the second one is implications. What are the implications of not moving forward with a solution? So we need to understand that. So to help anyone, there's a B, there's an E, right? So if you keep on going, but that is a sales methodology. It's something that helps me be able to develop the skills, the training around the conversations that I need to have in market. That makes sense?
Yep. Good so far. So a process then.
So a process is a subset of that, right? And it's a subset that's different. It's how I put those things in order, and how I put those things in order for the best outcome for the buyer, right? So a process is what are the milestones, the things and the milestones that have to happen and that should happen, and the order that they should happen within and I do it within a CRM system, but within any buying process to help the buyer come out with the best outcome. And obviously to help the seller come out with the best outcome. So that is different than the collection of skills that you need to have or the conversational ability that comes in the methodology. The process is the order steps that you need to take and you need to communicate as an organization that people are taking with your prospects, and you need to know that really well as an organization so it can interact with all of the different elements of the organization. Your ability to have a conversation is one thing. Your ability to execute on a process and help people move forward in a manner that serves them, that leads them, that drives them to change, that's something completely different.
Yeah. Okay. I think that makes sense to me. It's almost like the methodologies, the umbrella, it's the bigger picture piece, which will break down and probably processes within it, which are going to help us do it, like the way you might run a meeting and the way, good.
Yeah, exactly.
And you've just started to touch on that, but again, let's underline it. Why does it matter? Why does it matter?
Yeah, well, I mean, methodology is something that's been talked about for forever, right? And in sales, and not forever, but you go back to the Fuller Brushman, right? But they had a very specific way of.
Are they part of the family?
No, they're not related, unfortunately. But they had a specific way of interacting with people around the community. And then then they had to develop a process of what is how they interact with their company to ensure that everything got delivered on time and on target. So it's why does it matter? One, you need to have the skills. Today, we are more than ever, we're competing based on, I believe at least, we're competing based on the experience that people have with your organization, is whether or not they're going to buy. So, and I also believe that humans are a big portion of that, right? So your team, your sales team, needs to be able to have a methodology that helps them stand out, right? We need to have the training, the skills, everything that's a part of what you do that helps them stand out and helps them make an impact on the buyers that they're working with. That's massively, massively important. And research shows, I wish I could rattle off all the research. I can't. I can say that the term research shows, that companies that have a methodology.
Man after my own heart, Paul.
Yeah, companies and Google it, right? That's the other thing that I could say. Yeah, Google it. But research absolutely shows that companies that have this, embedded, ingrained cultural methodology really work well. Now, the process to me is about discipline. And again, any good salesperson knows that it's not that the game is a game of discipline, right? It's not the game. The great salespeople know that it's one of doing the right thing again and again and again and again and again. And to be able to do that effectively and hold yourself accountable to it is really, really important for success. And that's, to me, where a process comes in. So how do I do that same thing again and again and again? Interact with my organization in the best way again and again and again. Interact with my my customers in the best way again and again and again, and be able to rinse and repeat and improve all the time.
Rather than taking valuable time, effort, brain space in thinking how to do something, it's like, well, we know how to do something. It's been mapped. It's been modeled. So do it like that. Yeah, and look, we can always look and see, can we make it better? But don't keep reinventing the wheel, and don't do it different every single time, because you'll just waste too much time, waste too much effort. Yeah.
Oh my gosh. The people that you find that recreate the wheel continuously there's improvement, right? There's continual improvement. And then there's recreating the wheel. There's recreating the wheel continuously. The people that are continuously doing it and have to do it different every single time are going to be the biggest time wasters in an organization. The people that can follow a process and do it and iterate and improve upon that process are the ones that are going to be massively helpful to growth. I had a former mentor that always used to use American football as a metaphor for this, right? They practice the same plays again and again and again and again and again, so they can get on the field, right? And then they can get on the field, and then when they're on the field, they're able to be creative and call an audible because they do the same thing again and again and again and again. So it's being able to have that process that continually helps us improve. And then if we need to, we make an audible, but you don't need to make an audible all the time, right?
Is making an audible where you just make an on-the-spur decision, like, we're just gonna do it like this. Why? Because we can, because we're skilled enough, and you just off the cuff type thing.
Yeah, exactly. So if American football is a unique on its own, right? But that's what it is. You're calling it audible. You're saying, I practiced this play enough that I know that, if you want to run a route slightly different because it's going to give you an edge against a certain team, and you can make that off the cuff. Yes, you have the freedom to do that, right? But you have the freedom to do that because you're operating within an offense, within a methodology, and then the process of calling the plays. You're using that to be able to be successful, so you can make better audibles.
Yeah. I think every sport will have the same concept. You have a game plan, and we work to our game plan, which we've based on who we're playing against and what's going to work best for us. And we're all on the same sheet, so we're not going to go running off in different directions. But then every now and again, we've just got to do a quick improvisation, which we can do because we actually know the point we're improvising from. Yeah, yes. So we're all kind of here, and we can go to there fast rather than we're just all still running around like headless chickens. Yeah.
Yes.
Same works in rugby, soccer, whatever. So yeah. But some salespeople just don't seem to like it. I mean, I find this difficult to understand. I'm trying to put myself in their shoes and understand why, and I really struggle. Help me. Why do they like it?
Well, I'm one of those salespeople that don't seem to like it, quite honestly. Like you put me on any test, and I am the person that is the rule breaker. Like I'm the one that breaks the rules, that doesn't like to follow them, that likes to be being creative for creativity's sake. But we don't, and I can speak from my personal experience. Why don't I like it? Like I do it, and I actually have loved the benefits of doing it. Right. And it has taken me a while to understand those benefits of doing it. But if I say why I don't like it is because I tend to see it as the same thing, having to do the same thing again and again. Where I really opened my eyes was when I realized that it's not the same thing again and again. It's the framework that allows me to execute really, really well in completely different situations. So it's the playbook that allows me to say, oh my gosh, no, I can then be, going back to that, I can then be creative, right? But I can be creative with actually knowing what I'm talking about and knowing how to execute and knowing how to empower my organization and knowing how to, but if I'm just going off and doing my own thing by myself every single time, which quite honestly, I'm built to try and do, I'm built to, oh, geez, there's that problem. Let's try and figure that one out. Oh, I'm not helping anybody. I'm not helping my organization. I'm not helping the customer. And I create more problems than I help. So that's one reason, is just frankly, I hate the idea of repetitiveness, and something at my core rebels against discipline, which is when I get down to it, if I'm disciplined, same thing in my health, same thing in everything else. When I'm disciplined, when I follow the process, when I do all these things really well, it allows me to be more creative rather than less.
You afford yourself the space to be able to do that, and you'll be able to do it with impact. There's some relevance in the stuff that you're developing. Yeah, I can see why people would hate the repetition piece. I guess there's the other argument as well, where people are just like, well, I've got my own way, it's better.
Mm-hmm.
I guess. I mean, I've certainly come across those when we've been trying to instill discipline and give people a standard approach to work. Like, yeah, but I do it like this, and this could be whether we're talking a broader process, whether we're talking just certain tactical ways of doing something, and it's just like, I have my way.
I want to write. Yeah, no, I want to write a book at some point in my life. I don't know who will ever read it. I'll write it for myself, but it'll be the day I lost my angst. Like, I'm a child of the 90s, right? I'm a child of the 90s and grunge rock and roll and everything, where everything was against the system, F the system. Hope I can say F the system. But I mean, it's my, I am better. We have better ideas. We got to do this. And that is, I mean, there's a part of that that's healthy, right? There's a part of that that's very healthy, that you want to be able to challenge, and you want to be able to improve, and you want to be able to, rail against the system. But you need to understand what you're railing against, right? My way's better. Well, your way's probably not. If people just say that continually, I've seen that be the killer of sales success, right? Because you just want to do everything your way, and you just want to go, but you don't interact with the company very well. You don't interact with your clients very well. You fulfill yourself because you get to go do things your way, but you can't build repeatable success on that. Like, there's no way. Every time you have to say, guess what? I am not to say it very, very impactfully, I am not my own God. I need to submit to something, right? That is like there's a successful way to do things, and I need to do that. And if it's been shown, I should try it, right? So that's a big, long rant, Fred. I don't know if anything out of that is good, but you got me talking. So,
well, no, it's good though, because maybe somebody's listening to it and thinking, I'm not sure what I'm going to call the podcast. The title, it's going to be something around process and methodology. So if they're that anti, I'm not sure why they'd be listening. Probably to hate it. I don't know. But weird psychology that anyway. But if they're hearing you say, that's interesting, here's a guy that sounds like me, except he's a CRO for a company which not only has sales methodology and process, sells stuff to implement more effectively sales process. Perhaps there is something in it, because if he can talk himself around into this is why one does these things, then maybe I should be listening to him rather than Fred, perhaps.
Let's
say that,
take,
because he writes books about it.
Fred, let's take the weekly sales report, right? Let's take that. Let's take about the weekly sales report. The one thing that it's essentially what you've done in relates to your process, and working with the organization and your pipeline and all these things that are part of the sales process, right? The weekly sales report. One of the most hated things that salespeople could ever do, right? Oh, we got to figure out a way to automate this weekly sales report. You know what's so good about a weekly sales report? Is that it forces you to sit down and think about the habits that you had that week and the habits that you're going to have next week. That is a part of a methodology and a process, right? That a good methodology really focuses on what are the skills, how we're going to develop them, and then it puts those skills into a line item process that helps you say, how am I going to get better as a leader, as a servant, as a salesperson every single day? That weekly sales report, where you're forced to put that down and look at yourself objectively, right, is why do we hate it? It takes time. Why do we need it? because it's that self-reflection. It's that time to look, am I actually doing things better? And the people that I respect the most are the ones that come into a company, they learn like crazy, they learn the process, they learn the methodology, they get to work on it, and then they continually innovate. They're the ones, right? They've learned it, they know it, and they have the right to innovate on it, and they bring everybody in. Those people are amazing, and it's so fun to work with them, right? Once I realized I wasn't that person, early on in my career, I really strove hard to become that person, because I was just like, man, that's the way I can make an impact. That's the way I can help people drive things forward. Anyways, another big long tangent.
No, but it's part of the point. That's why we have these conversations, isn't it? But it's interesting that you talk about earning the right. You know, the people who are good at it have earned the right to be able to then question based on behavior, based on results and things that they can point to. But I'm in danger of starting ranting now, which is about this fascination with automating absolutely everything, which is great. You know, some stuff is a waste of time. Automate it, give yourself more time to do the stuff that matters. But I feel a little bit today we're automating some of our thinking. We're skipping the thinking part. That's what you just said. It's like automate that report, automate that, automate the research on the customer. What? Oh yeah, do that. Yeah, then write the email automatically and send it to them. Where have you added anything to this? And if that works, how are you then going to have a decent conversation with the customer, because you've not actually sat and thought about it yourself? Everyone's happy, really, but you're not bringing anything to the party because you've not actually put your own brain into this at any stage. What are your thoughts on this kind of over automation of that, taking the thinking out?
I think that's a great question. And one of the things we've actually strived to build at Membrain is something around that whole philosophy, not of over automation, but of right-sized automation, right? And I struggle with that on a daily basis as a CRO in terms of the processes that we run and what we have to do. And I think if we really get down to, and I've been thinking about this a lot lately, I think if we really get down to it, the question that we need to answer with automation is our efficiency, is our strive for efficiency killing our effectiveness? Does it limit our opportunities for growth, or does it increase them? So some of them will add, some of the automation, some of that type of stuff, and we can lump A into that, is absolutely going to help our efficiency. But if I define my effectiveness by, I'm building leaders, right? I'm building a brand that those leaders can take to market. I'm making my customers wildly happy, and that's what we want to do. And I'm empowering my partners to spread our message, right? If I take everything through those things of what do I really truly want to be effective at, I think that can help me with the automation question, because there are some things we want to take out. There's some friction. We're on this thing of everything we do either needs to do one of two things. It either needs to increase impact or decrease friction, right? Automation only does some of that. It can decrease friction in a good way if it takes my process and it spreads it out through the organization better, if it educates people more effectively, that type of stuff. But if that automation ends up killing my ability to create leaders as salespeople, as customer success people, as customer support, right? If it takes away that work that they have to do to become a leader, then it's not worth it, right? So you have to balance it. And I think if I get down to that question, is where does my efficiency, my drive for efficiency kill my effectiveness? I think that's a big thing on automation. And then our system is required, like we don't automate in Membrain, we don't automate everything for a reason, right? We actually give you the choices. We have an automation engine that we built, and you can automate just about anything you want to, but it's not something that, we decide or push on you, right? Or you have to automate this. We give you the choices on which to automate and how, because we think it should be a legitimate choice. We think that it should actually be something that you have to think through as an organization before implementing.
Yeah. And that's what I like the work that I've been doing with you guys in how sort of in embedding my stuff in there. It's, yeah, here's some things where we've done the thinking for you. As in, that's what process looks like. Framework. I mean, I use the word framework, so which is a kind of catch-all. What's that?
Yep.
It's this mixture of methodology and process, you know. But there's the framework. That's the stuff that will work. There are some of the elements within it, but the elements within it is a mixture of do that, but just do that, and you just crack on with it, or think like this. Use this as a stimulus to go away, think about how you're going to do this next piece to move into the next step to be valuable to the customer, and on and on and on. And that's why I liked it, rather than just a have you hit this gate? Yes, tick box, tick box, tick box, pushing through a process. It's this, here's your hints, here's your clues, here's your invitations to think, here's how to think. That's where it's really come alive for me. That's why I'm a big fan.
Yeah, I'll give you an example. Just from our own sales team. I got a sales team member, Nick, that I've worked with for a long time, but he's taken our vibe methodology and then the process within Membrain, and he's like, that's one of his mission. He loves to understand, what should be automated, what shouldn't be, and how, like, he just geeks out on it. He just gets really excited by it. But there are some processes, there are some things, exactly what you've said, and this is back to the idea of earning the right. And I talk about it as building leaders, right? Which is, what are the things that we absolutely need to slow down, pause, and think about in a structured way on an ongoing basis to make sure we're getting deals closed. And so he's built this, our process, to be able to do that. So literally it forces him to pause, it forces him to write out things, think about it, take 15 minutes, role play with other people, so he can become that best version of himself, right? To be able to sell and get the best option for the customer. So it's one of those things that rather than saying, oh man, I'm of the mind that I'd rather serve a customer really, 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 really well, than throw automation at everything. Because we also could have just said, hey, you have to check, instead of thinking that through, ping chat GPT on this, boom, it just forcing. So putting that into the process, that it forces you to slow down, think through things, make the right choices, and move things forward, and empowering people to do that. That's where I come down on the side of.
Yeah, where you need to slow down and pause. I mean,
yep.
I don't know. I sometimes get the feeling that this is considered a bad thing. Grind, hustle, push, more, there, come on, 9 o'clock, you should be calling calls, blah, 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 blah. It's like, where are you doing your thinking? Where are you just stepping back, planning for yourself anyway, but also just thinking about the customer, what's going on in their world? And so when you do make contact, you have something interesting, intelligent to talk to them about. You can't do that without that pause, can you? I can't.
I know I can't. And I know that's where I exist in. That's if I'm, and I fully admit I exist in that world of, or I have to pull myself back from that world of the next, right? Faster. When I exist in that realm, it's an existence of anxiety and caffeine, right? That's all it is. If I don't slow down, if I don't force that slowdown, or have my reps force that slowdown in the process, I'm not sure that I get to the best end result, because I'm always then pushing. And I'm even pushing for bad customers to come in, right? And I don't want that. So if you keep on always having to push, you are never going to get the best results. You need the push and the pause.
So I need to push the pause. So you configure the system. You configure Membrain, enough for you.
Mm-hmm.
We use a different one, Fred.
Oh,
No.
implement. Yeah.
Yeah.
Configure the system. Yep.
No, so you configure that with these almost like, I don't know, almost like speed bumps, I guess, to like just stop and think.
Yep.
You can't automate this piece. You need to go away, walk around the block, thinking about what you're going to say to that person if you were to bump into them in the pub, supermarket, cafe, whatever. So your system helps you do that. What other things do you use then? Because you recognize it yourself, just to put your own kind of slow down mechanisms in place.
I honestly ask personally. Our system does that, and so let me take those two questions separately. Our system does that if people want it to do that, right? So,
Yeah.
for example, a really good way of doing that is a scorecard. Right. So how do I radically disqualify someone from my pipeline? Right. Which also, you can also say radically qualify into my pipeline. Right. I only want to let the best, the people we know we can serve really well into that. How do we do that? Well, a great way is just to force yourself to fill out a scorecard. Right. And what are the 12 questions on this deal that I'm going to answer every time before putting it in? I think it's a great thing. Or what is the making or sitting down and writing out a value statement for this particular customer? And again, we sell something that has an impact across people's entire organization. Sometimes it's a really quick sale, but generally not, right? So what is the actual value that we're bringing them? So taking that and putting that in, having a pause and sitting down and making sure we write that down. What is the information that we don't know about this? All these things that can be really, really frustrating if we're coaching and managing to a point where we're like, as fast as you can, have to do the next thing, have to do the next thing, have to do the next thing. And then personally, just as a personal tactic, I ask people to challenge me. And what I mean by this is, if you don't think that I know enough, or I'm serving well enough on this one, or I'm not leading well enough, challenge me on it. And let's have a 15 minutes to schedule that 15-minute meeting. And so that's just something I ask people to do, is just challenge me. Let's talk about it. And I'll listen. Right. And so, but putting those pauses in, I think, is really critical. So you could do it in any way, shape, or form. Right. Scorecards really work. Pre-call planning meetings, I know it's overused. People hate them. There's salespeople like, oh, I don't need a pre-call plan. Yada, yada. Force it. Force yourself to take a 5 to 10 minute slowdown in your process, so you know what the heck you're doing, right? And where you want to take things. And if you want to be the best at something, say that you want to be the best at it and practice. So those are some ways.
Yeah. Oh, very cool. I like that. Say you want to be the best. And what? Verbalize it. Tell people. Yeah. That's accountability, isn't it? Yeah. And then practice it. That's a whole different podcast. That's a whole different series.
Yeah.
On practice. But awesome. Awesome.
Well,
Say you want to be the best.
this is something that and it also makes things easier on the when you're communicating with customers too. Like I recently had a prospect that said, I just want to, we're in the midst of a pause. We just need to pause. That's fine. If they need to pause, that's great. But at the beginning of this conversation that I had said, one of the things that we want to be for you is a part of your team. We're going to start acting like that now. Be a part of your team, a part of your process, and we want to be the best at what we do. We're not for everybody. I want to make sure we're right for you. We're right for, and we're going to do that work, right? So I got this, they agreed to that, and we've been acting like that, and we've been really working hard to do it. And then we get an email that says, hey, we just got to pause. Great. I'm down with that. Completely down with them having to pause if they need to. But to be the best at this, I have to send an email back that says, hey, this is what we understand about where you are. I need to understand these 3 things so we can be prepared we want to be the best. Here's what we got to understand. Here's how we want to move things forward. Just if that doesn't align with what you guys want to do, you got to let me know, because we are going to be the best. We're going to be prepared. And I didn't send it right away. I took the pause and I may be going off into left field here, but I took the pause, then I wrote it, and then we sent it. But it is that stated idea of I want to be the best at this process, being very open and transparent with my process and my methodologies and how we're going to work, and then being able to be thoughtful about it, I think is really critical.
Yeah. Being able to be thoughtful. But selling is about thinking. Our own thinking and helping others to think. I mean, that's what it's about, really, isn't it? More so than ever, I think. It's awesome stuff, Paul. Where can people get in touch with you if people are listening to this and think, oh, fancy chat? Cool.
Yeah, I'm on LinkedIn. I am Paul Fuller on LinkedIn. I think my headline is Elevating the Sales Profession. That's really what we want to do. I know there's a number of Paul Fullers on LinkedIn. You can also check us out at membrain.com, and that is MEM and then brain like the one in your head, membrain.com. And I have podcasts on Spotify where we have a lot of fun with that too. So had Fred on a couple of weeks ago, and I think that'll be publishing really soon. But I get to talk with sales leaders across the world. So it's so much fun, and love my gig.
It is. It's great fun. This has been good fun. Yeah. Brilliant. We'll drop those links into the show notes anyway. So, Paul, brilliant. Thanks for coming along. And I'll certainly be speaking to you again pretty soon, I know. And hopefully some of the listeners will too.
Sounds good. Thanks so much, Fred.
Thank you for listening to the Sales Today podcast with me, your host, Fred Copestake. I hope you've enjoyed what you heard today. If you did, please get in touch and hit subscribe. And remember, you can take the Collaborative Selling Scorecard for free to check out how your sales approach works in today's environment. You'll find it in the show notes.